might not be having permission to allow more than one person to record at a time.
Oh, that
Through
may
this.
be the reason.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Fine. Oh, no, not an issue.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, then I'll start now.
Yes, sir. Please, sir.
Yeah. Welcome to all. So today I am going to present the topic, that is application of radiation in the field of oncology and associated fields. So as you know, the oncology field is related with the diagnosis and therapeutic application on cancer treatment. So my topic I'll cover broadly. I have classified into four subheadings. First, I classify the various modalities which is available for this cancer treatment and diagnosis. Second one will be that I'll give a brief intro of various techniques which are available for this purpose. And third one will be the radioisotope production basics. And fourth, that is our contribution, and that is radioisotope production at IGCAR Kalpakkam. Now I'll first come to the classification portion. In the classification portion, so it is a very broad area, and it is constantly growing also. So if we see that first the term will come, that is radiation medicine. Yes, so the term radiation medicine is there. That is further classified into three topics. One is diagnostic radiology. So where we mostly are habituated with various things like which involves X-rays for diagnosis, like X-rays, CTs, all these things. And the second topic will be nuclear medicine. The nuclear medicine, it is further classified. I'll come to that later. So here, unsealed radioactive sources are used. So that radioactive sources are injected to the human body, and from that we obtain the information. And that will be helpful for either diagnosis or therapeutic purpose or both. And they also can be further classified. That will come in due course. Here in this place, that like diagnostic purpose, here it can be molecular or functional. Like we all know that PET, SPECT, all this technique comes under this. And then therapeutic application, there it can be curative purpose or it can be palliative purpose. Means it can cure the cancer, and if along with that, if it is second, third or fourth stage of cancer, then what can happen, that patient may develop huge amount of pain that cannot go by normal painkillers. So there palliative care comes into picture. Then the third portion is the radiotherapy. Radiotherapy is in radiotherapy, sealed sources of radioactivity is used. Means in the case of nuclear medicine, we have seen unsealed sources, that is open liquid sources or gas sources are used. But in this case, sealed sources are used. That means they are solidified and they are they cannot spill out, and it is a sealed in an environment like that. Sources are present. They are used for the radiotherapy. It can be internal beam radiotherapy, the like brachytherapy, or it can be external beam radiotherapy. Now we'll come to the next topic. Next one. 1 minute. Yeah. So yes. Yeah. So now I'll come to the various techniques. What are things I'm going to talk? The brief introduction about those things. So in that, I'll talk about first. I'll split into three. That is, first I'll talk about the diagnosis by imaging technique, and then treatment by nuclear medicine, and third one will be the treatment by radiotherapy. Yes. So first, let us come to the imaging portion. In the case of imaging, that first, what is the purpose of imaging? Imaging is that without doing any surgery, first you to understand what is the problem. If there is any problem like tumor, that it is always better to know without cutting the patient's portion of the body open and getting the information, and then we can plan better for the treatment of the cancerous tumor. So this diagnostics, it can be divided into another two, that is diagnostic radiology. The imaging can be divided into two, the diagnostic radiology and nuclear medicine. In the case of diagnostic radiology, it can be X-ray radiography, that is all we are familiar with, and then fluoroscopy, then CT scan. And further, there is another portion that is called mammography also, it is there. And nuclear medicine also can be used for diagnosis, and they are PET and SPECT. These two scans are there. So here I would like to tell that what is the major difference between these two imaging techniques, structural or anatomical imaging, another is molecular or functional imaging. So first thing is the structural or anatomical imaging, means whether the tumor is present or not, and if it is present, where it is present. That is comes under this structural or anatomical imaging. And in the second type is, if the tumor is present, which type of tumor it is. Is it benign tumor or is it a malignant tumor? That we cannot find out from the structural anatomical imaging. So for that, to go further, they comes under molecular or functional imaging portion. So that only you can see from here. These all the portions comes under the first portion. All these three portions comes under the structural or anatomical imaging, and the second one is comes under the molecular or functional imaging. Yes. So first, the main thing what is used for this type of diagnostic purpose is the X-rays. So first, to understand how these X-rays are produced. These are from the basics. What is the thing is X-rays production requires the cathode ray tube. We all know. So for that X-ray tube we know, and for that there is a cathode is there where it is a heated filament. And there is an anode is there which is made of tungsten. And if you see here, I think there is some animation is there. If it runs, 1 minute. This animation, yeah. So you can see from here this cathode is heated, and then there is a huge amount of potential is created between the cathode and anode, and because of that potential gradient, the electrons what is coming out from the cathode, they are accelerated towards the anode, and the anode is upon bombardment of the anode with that accelerated electron, it emits the X-rays. That you can see that what are the X-rays are produced from here. Now there are various type of X-rays which are produced. There are mostly two types. One is Bremsstrahlung X-rays, another is characteristics X-ray radiation. So you can see from here that mostly what are the X-rays that produces from this first 1, 2, 3, these three type of things. They are not, they are just getting deflected. See, that electron is coming out and it is getting deflected by the, it was supposed to go this side. Instead of that, it is changing its path to this direction. So same is the case for the second one also. It also changes the direction. In the case of in the case of 3 also, it is changing the direction. So all the things comes under Bremsstrahlung production. That is a continuous X-ray emission. So that you can see here, it is a continuous emission of X-rays. And there is another one is there. That is the fourth. There is a fourth one you can see from here. Yeah. So in fourth one, what it does is that when electron comes, electron is interacting with the K cell of the electron, and then the K cell is getting ejected out. So there is a vacancy. So now that place, other X-rays from the other electron from the L cell, M cell will come in, and they will continuously emit some energy. They will emit the characteristics energy. That is the characteristic radiation. That is the characteristic X-ray will come. So for that only we can see that two discrete X-ray energies, K alpha and K beta. So those things will be appearing when the electron is interacting with the matter. Now, all these type of X-rays, what we spoke just now, they all will produce mostly this KeV range electron. So those KeV range electrons are only useful in the case of diagnostic purpose. But our aim is not only for the diagnostic purpose, but for the therapeutic purpose also. So we require a high energy X-rays. So for high energy X-ray, we require the superficial or ortho voltage or mega voltage X-rays. So the energies you can see, the energies are quite high. The mega voltage X-ray is almost 1 to 25 MeV it can be. And they can penetrate the deep tissues, which other techniques cannot. other X-rays cannot. But those X-rays, like mega voltage X-rays, cannot be produced simply by bombarding by hitting the cathode and bombarding that electron to the anode. So for that, we to use the accelerators for accelerating the electron. So for that purpose, we can use the Van de Graaff generator or linear accelerator or betatron or microtron. These things will accelerate the electron, and then it will like you can see the Van de Graaff generator here. That this is a schematic of the Van de Graaff generator. Here the electrons are getting accelerated. Here you can see here that electrons are getting accelerated, and then it is impinging on the anode, and from that we can get the X-rays. And those X-rays, what will be produced from this process, will be having the energies of MV range, megavolt range. Yeah. So this is the commonly used X-ray radiography technique. So everybody would have used by now, I feel. That is simple X-ray radiography technique that is used for any kind of this bone damage. So they are mostly, since we know the in X-ray or gamma ray interacts by photoelectric effect. So the photoelectric effect interaction takes place more where the atomic number is high. So atomic number is high in the case in our body of the bone, that is calcium. But apart from that, other muscles, those muscles are made of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, all these things. So those are having low Z. Compared to that, calcium is having high Z. And because of that, what happens is it will interact better. And we can mostly this technique, X-ray radiography technique is used for knowing is there any damage in the bone. So for that purpose, we can see here there is a bone is broken, so that we can know from this application. There is another application which is of X-rays, which is mostly used for the breast imaging. Where what happens is in the early stages of breast cancer, so there are small amount of lump which is formed and which will be having the abnormally high density or mass or calcification. So that portion, if it is exposed to the mammography technique, where it is nothing but a very low dose of X-rays is passed through the portion of the woman, and from that we can get the image and can understand that whether there is a any abnormal areas of density is produced. It can be calcification or it can be anything else. So from that we can very early stages, we can understand that there may be some problem, and it can be further referred for further treatment. So from this we can understand that there are some applications. This X-ray radiography application is the oldest technique. It is the simplest method, and it is very cheap technique also. But limitation is that a large bone may cover the smaller bone, so we cannot understand if that type of thing is present. Now, second technique is the fluoroscopy. The fluoroscopy, suppose there is an internal organ is there, so that we can know the situation of that organ in the real time. So it is just like in a computer monitor, we can see that what is happening in the real time. So that is a continuous image is displayed in a monitor. Apart from the previous one where there was only a two-dimensional image was obtained, but here we can get a two-dimensional image, but that was previous one was static, but this one is a dynamic image. That is a major difference. Apart from that, there is a another application also there, that we can like suppose we want to image the GI tract. Okay, so in the GI tract we know that all are low Z material, low atomic number, that is carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. So those things will not interact with the X-rays. So we cannot understand whether there is any damage or not by simple X-ray. So there are other methods are there, but they are costly. So if we want to know by X-ray radiography technique, the GI tract where the low Z material is there, so what we can do is we can add some radio contrast agent as the contrast medium. So suppose barium sulfate solution is given, or iodine contrast solution is given. So the patient is given for drinking that agents, and those agents, and you know the barium sulfate is a aqueous insoluble material. So because of that, that will get settled into the GI tract, and from outside, if we pass X-ray and we get the image, and we can clearly see how is there any damage of the GI tract or not. So for that purpose, we can use this technique of radio contrasting agent in coupled with X-ray radiography and CT. Now I'll come to, I have completed the first portion of the imaging. The second portion is the molecular imaging. Sorry, the CT scan is there. So CT scan also comes under the first, that is structural imaging. So in the case of X-ray, radiography, only we can get the two-dimensional imaging. But it will not give the. We have seen the difficulties also. Like if the larger bones are there, that will cover the smaller bones, and it is not a three-dimensional. So it is very difficult to predict, or it is very difficult to understand what is the real dimension of the tumor. And for that purpose, there is a new technique is there. There is a computer tomography, CT scan. The CT scan, if you derive the word into it is a mix. It comes from the two words. There is a tomos and graphene. So it is a slice and to write. That means it takes the image by slicing. That way it is obtained, and it is a computed tomography. It is a three-dimensional image, three-dimensional sliceage, and from that we can get the anatomy of interest. So if we see from here, that suppose we want to know that internal organ, but suppose this is the internal organ, and we don't have the picture. Suppose we are taking the picture of the heart, and we want to understand in a heart whether there is any tumor is there or not. So we cannot see this particular image. What we can do is we can pass the X-rays from all the directions. So, and that will be passed in a very narrow slit. So very small slit we can of the X-rays can be passed. That is very small intensity. Very narrow width of the X-rays can be passed in various angles. That is from the top, bottom, side, in small like 1 mm resolution. And after all this image, if we combine them together, we can see that we can get this full image. So that way this CT scan works. So if you see the picture of the CT scan, so obviously there will be the few things like X-ray beam will be there. X-ray beams are seen, and the detector will be here. So the patient will be placed here. If we can see the thing from this, the patient will be placed in this particular place, and then X-ray tubes are seen here. X-ray tube is seen here, and opposite direction X-ray detector is seen here. And now this is the thing, and from this we can get both the things will rotate. There is X-ray tube and X-ray detector, both will rotate in small angle, and from this we can get the image of the particular place of the body. In this place you can see that image of the brain is obtained. Now I will compare the two techniques, that is X-ray radiography and the CT scan technique. So you can see the X-ray radiography technique that images are quite blurred. We cannot see each and every organ very easily. But in this case of tomography, that compared to the radiography, the tomography here, that quite a lot of things are clear. If you see the spine, it is quite clear, but it is not clear here. If you see the lung, if you see the heart, that is having other obstacles. But in this case, we can see very clearly. And other portions also are better compared to the X-ray radiography, because X-ray radiography, many things are superimposed. But in this case, it is not so. So complete volumetric information can be obtained from this. Now we'll come to the application of this X-ray CT scan. That is, X-ray CT scan is having a higher spatial resolution, and in this place also there is no radioactive sources are injected into the body. But the limitation is that if there is a difference of the two tissues only less than 1%, that we cannot obtain from that information cannot be obtained from the CT scan. So first portion of the imaging is over. The first portion was the structural imaging or anatomical imaging. That is just to know the position. Now the second portion is the molecular imaging. If there is a tumor, which type of tumor it is? Is it malignant or is it a tumor? Is it a benign? So which type of tumor it is present? That will come to know from this type of imaging. So for this, there are two techniques are there. So first technique is the PET, that is a positron emission tomography technique. So in this place, it is a 3D, three-dimensional image technique. It is a functional process. That means how it functions. From the inside, we get the news. And then in this place, there is a positron emission is injected into the body. So that is the difference. In the case of CT scan or X-ray scan, there is no radioactivity inside the body. But in this case, in the case of positron emission tomography, there is a radioactivity is present into the body. Radioactivity should be that there is a radionuclide should be beta plus emitter. And here not only the radioisotope matters, here this paired radionuclide matters. Like that, there is a vehicle molecule also required. So the vehicle molecule is your organic molecule. So the organic molecule and the ligand, there is a metal ligand complex will take place, and that will be very much selected to the target organ. So it is like a key and lock mechanism, and that way this PET and SPECT, both the techniques works. So the principle of the PET technique is, as I told, the positron emission tomography, the PET full form. So we have to understand how a positron emitter interacts, how a positron emitter, when a positron is emitted, how the positron interacts with the matter. So here you can see this is the unstable nuclides. These are unstable nuclide, and when it comes to the ground state, it emits a beta plus. The beta plus will annihilate. Annihilate means it will what is called, it will combine with an electron in the surrounding, and this mass of the electron and the positron will not exist further, and it will produce two gamma. So two gammas are produced here. You can see from this place. So these two gammas are present at 180-degree angle. That is exactly opposite to each other. It is present. So you can see the detector place also. Detector is surrounded, 360-degree angle detector is there. So suppose this particular place, the cancer is there. So in the opposite direction, we'll get the information. And that way we'll get the signal. And what happens is, this type of signal counting is called coincidence counting. So coincidence counting is what? Coincidence counting is when two incidents are happening in a very small amount of time. That is called coincidence. And here, this two gamma photon has to interact with the detector, which are placed exactly opposite to each other in a very small amount of time. You can see the time, it is 8 to 12 nanosecond. What can happen is, this is the true coincidence happens, but it can happen that the tumor is here, and it can get deflected by some means, by some organ here, and that can, instead of 180 angle, the angle can be reduced. Or it can happen that suppose two places there are tumors are there, and the two places, this side also interaction happening, this side also interaction happening, same with this. But the computer, when it is making the inference from the data, it is understanding that the tumor can be here somewhere. So this type of anomalies can come. But one thing is clear, that in these two places, the time required for the two gamma photons to reach the detector is quite high. So if we fix the time, that is 8 to 12 nanosecond time, we can obviously eliminate these two things. So by this way, we can eliminate and can get what is the exact coincidence. So you can see from here that there are many events are happening in this channel 1. There are many events are happening in the channel 2. So only thing is where there are exact two signals are superimposing, means exactly happening within that particular time, that signal only taken as a true signal. Other signals are not taken as a true signal. So these signals are cause a true coincident events. So in the case of PET laboratory, means the PET where it is performed, there are a few things are required. The first of all thing is you require accelerator, because it has to be produced, and you require a lab for leveling, because the metal ligand complexation has to be taken place. And for that we require some separation also. For separation, since it is a radioactive materials are there, so we require some hot cell or mini cell, and some ultra fast separation techniques are required, because sometimes the half lives are very low. So those things are the major requirement. And as I told, this is the detector and the 360 angle. And most used radioisotope what is there is fluorine-18. You will know the name FDG. I'll come to that after some time. And almost how much amount of radioactivity is injected is almost 5 to 10 millicurie of F18 is injected into the body. For children, it is quite less, that you can see from here. And how much time is required? The time is requirement is almost 30 to 40 minutes. Yeah. So there are various options are there. As I told, first one is the FDG, that is fluorine-18. So apart from FDG, there are various other options also there. First, let us see what is the properties of F18. So F18 is an isotope of fluorine, and its half-life is 110 minutes, so slightly less than 2 hours. And its beta plus energy is 0.6 MeV, and its range is 2.4 mm. And it can be produced in cyclotron. It can be produced by oxygen 18 PN reaction, or it can be produced by neon irradiation. And what we can see from here is this range is very important, because if the range is very high, then it can interact with the normal tissue. So you can see the other alternatives.
कहते सब तुम्हारा घर सरी का थोड़ी नहीं रे कहते नहीं माके कहते तुम्हारा घर सरी का
Yeah, so we can see from here that there are other alternatives like rubidium-86. What is the major problem is the beta plus energy is very high. So because of that, what happens is the range is also quite high. Range is 10 MeV. Sound is coming. Who is shouting?
Sorry for the inconvenience. Dr. Devashish Saha.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry for the inconvenience. Actually, ये कुछ नई टेक्नोलॉजी है सर, तो अभी थोड़ा सा एडजस्ट करने में, घर से एडजस्ट करने में it will take some time.
Okay.
And Professor Kalpana Madam, actually I thought like Kalpana Madam is there, I think. Just 1 second, मैं उनको भी म्यूट करता हूँ. मैडम आप भी, हाँ यस सर. मैडम एक्चुअली सॉरी, मैंने इसलिए सबको अनम्यूट कर दिया था कि आई वाज थिंकिंग कि सब लोग सेंसिबल हैं, सो दे अंडरस्टैंड. सो आई गिवन राइट्स टू एवरीवन दैट दे कैन mute themselves and unmute themselves, something like this. So no issues. अच्छा आएगा, एक थोड़ा सा ब्रेक भी मिल गया सर. आप थोड़ा सा
कि मैं आई जस्ट वांट टू
हेलो,
ऑडियो तो सबका ही म्यूट ही रखे.
ठीक है मैम, कर दिया अभी मैंने. फिर इनिशियली मैंने इस इंटेंशन से किया था कि कई बार किसी को कम्युनिकेट करना पड़ता है. सो नो इश्यूज. डॉक्टर साहब सॉरी, एंड प्लीज कंटिन्यू. एक ड्रिंक्स का छोटा सा सेशन जैसे होता है, ऐसा मान सकते हैं हम कि
या करेक्ट.
यस सर.
Yes. Yeah. So what we can see from here is that okay. So F18 is having a very small beta plus energy, but its half-life is quite high, because since the radioisotope is going inside the body, so we should see one thing, that radioisotopes half-life should be very low. In the table, we can see that there are various isotopes. In that lowest energy, lowest half-life is of rubidium-82. So if we see only half-life point, obviously we'll prefer rubidium-86. But the problem is that rubidium-86 is having beta plus energy of 3.3 MeV. So since the energy of 3.3 MeV is there, so obviously it will travel more before doing annihilation. And because of that, the range is almost 10 MeV, or 10 mm. And because of that, what happens is that we'll get some error in the actual position of the tumor, because always the annihilation happens near to the energy of 0.5 MeV. So since the energy of beta plus is quite high, it will travel some amount to reduce its energy and come down to 0.5 MeV, and then it will do the annihilation. So that is the problem with rubidium-82. And other things also can be used, but another problem is there also is that if we use very short half-life radioisotopes, we require the accelerator should be associated with the hospital. So that is called medical cyclotron. And as all of us knows that the running a accelerator is very difficult, very costly. And because of that, if we use F18, it is almost 2 hours half-life. So what happens is that 2 hours half-life thing can be easily transported all across the India or any countries. Because of that, the overall cost involved in the F18 comes down enormously. So based upon that, there is no easy choice, but to see positive of each and negative of each, then you have to take a decision. So as I was talking about that, fluorine 18 is given as a FDG. So it is a fluorodeoxyglucose. So you can see this is the structure of glucose. In the position of OH, in the second position, there is 1, 2. F18 is added, and that is makes this fluorodeoxyglucose. And what is the difference comes is the body is unable to understand the difference between OH and F because the very small amount of change of atomic number of oxygen and fluorine. Because of that, bodies are not able to understand. So I'll tell that how it is getting trapped into the body. So what is happening is that when a glucose or any glucose is injected or we consume glucose, what happens is that glycolysis takes place. In glycolysis, this is the root of glycolysis. So it has to follow all the procedure to form this compound. Now what happens is, if you see the procedure of this, I have kept the OH in this place and fluorine in this place. So reaction takes place as usual up to this position, but when the ring closure has to take place, in that particular place we require the O single bond OH bond, but that is absent in the case of fluorine. So further ring closure will not take place, and because of that, the FDG will get trapped into that particular organ. So because of that, FDG is trapped into the organ, and fluorine is continuously giving beta plus. So beta plus will come out of the body, and that will be useful for the imaging. If you see the picture here, if you see the details here, how it works. So it is injected first, then this is our detector, and then this beta plus is giving the beta plus annihilating and giving the gamma in all the directions. The gamma is getting detected, so that you can the annihilation process. The two gammas are coming 511. And that is the process. It is detecting all the directions, and from that we get the image of this. This is the image of the person who is having the tumor that is subtracted with the control, and we can understand where is the difference is present. So from that we can understand that is the place where we can have the tumor. And now it is all the time this technique is combined with the PET with the CT technique, because what happens is if there is a small amount of light is present in a very big dark room, we cannot understand what is the exact position of the light in the dark room. If there is another light source is present, very dim light, then we can understand that where is the exact position of that small light like laser. The same way is the case. PET is very sensitive to the particular organ. Suppose there is a tumor, and suppose there is an organ that particular organ in a small place there is a tumor, and we have got the signal from that particular organ, but each and every person's body is having different amount of fat content, other abnormalities, other difference. Because of that, exact position of each and every patient is not same. So we cannot compare one person's heart with another person's heart. So because of that, what is done is that we get the person's CT is not sensitive to a particular organ. It takes the image of whole body. And then if we get in that particular place the image, the small illumination that comes from the radioactive source, then we'll easily get the which particular place we are having the cancer. So that data can come from that. There is anatomical information, and another information can come is a attenuation correction also we can get from that. So PET and CT, these two techniques give the two information. That's why we say that it is not that PET and CT, if we combine only one advantage we get more than one advantage. So you can see from here how the thing looks. So here, 1 minute, yeah. So here you can see this first one is the FDG thing. So this is the PET image. So here you can see very small amount of some darkness is seen. So, or in this place you can see small amount of darkness. You can very difficult to understand that which particular place is this. So if we combine with the CT image, this is the CT image, then if we see here, you can easily understand the exact position of that. So the anatomical and molecular and anatomical and functional, both informations we are obtaining by the PET and CT combination. So PET and CT, if we not only that, there are other applications of PET also. That is, it is, as I told, it is a malignant and benign tumor. It can differentiate, and what are things? It can show the blood flow also in the heart muscles, and it can show suppose a person has gone for some surgery of the cancer, or a person has gone for the chemotherapy of the cancer, and after that, what is the improvement of the cancer? So that information can be obtained by CT also, but it takes long time. If you see here, CT takes almost 2 months for any changes, but PET response is only 7 days. So those information we can get very easily from the PET informations. And there are limitations are there also, that we require to administer a radioactive substance into the body, and technique is costly compared to CT obviously. So, and we require sometime medical cyclotron facility also. Yeah. So now I'll come to the another information, that is another technique that is called SPECT technique. So first we will let us know the name. There is a single photon emission computed tomography. So here it is any gamma emitters has to be taken. So in that previous one, it was a beta plus emitter. And in this place, it has to be any gamma emitters can be taken. Gamma doesn't come. Gamma is not a radionuclide decay. It comes under beta minus or electron capture, all these processes. So it should be like that. Means it should be a single gamma emission. Like it is single photon emission. So it should be a single gamma emission should take place. So here also the concept is similar like PET. PET radionuclide should be coupled with the organic molecule, and it will be specific to the target. Yeah. So unlike SPECT, unlike PET, PET was having a 3-dimensional detector, but in this place we are having a detector in only one place, and the source is there which is emitting only one gamma, and this detector is getting rotated and to get the 3-dimensional image of the body. And here we don't get the information from the two sources. Always getting information from the two sources is reliable, but always it is not possible. So in this place, whether it is coming exactly from the tumor cell or it is coming from other place after deflection, that we cannot come to know. Because of that, we have to put some collimators. These collimators are mostly lead collimators are used, and other type of thing like detectors are used, and then that can be used for getting the complete image of that. So that way the SPECT technique works. So in the case of PET, we have seen 5 to 10 millicurie of the radioisotopes are used. In the case of PET, we have seen that fluorine-18 is used, right? But in the case of SPECT, we will use technetium-99m, and the amount of dose source will be 10 to 30 millicurie. So, and it takes 2 to 3 hours time, because the radioactivity injected is quite high. So time consumption is also not, but compared to PET, it is more only. PET I saw, I think 30 minutes, but here 2 to 3 hours it takes, because the intensity is low compared to the PET. So this is the details of that. And not only the technetium 99, it is used for thyroid cancer also. For thyroid cancer, iodine isotopes like iodine 125, other things are used. That I'll come to this. Yeah. So there are many sources we can see from here. The sources: gallium, technetium 99, indium, iodine 123, thallium. All these things are there. So technetium 99 is mostly used. That iodine 123, 131, they are used for the thyroids. And then xenon is a gas. It is used for the lung. For suppose you want to know any lung abnormalities, so from that we can allow the person to inhale xenon gas, and from that we can come to know that whether there any problem is there or not. So these are the ways we can produce. So mostly you remember two things. One is PET, fluorinating, for SPECT, technetium 99M, and the production route for PET F18 was by oxygen 18. 1 minute. It was by only this technique. Yeah. So it was by oxygen 18 NP reaction. We got 18F. And in this case, we are getting that by this technique, that is 98 molybdenum N-gamma reaction. So this way we are obtaining the this technetium 99M. These two reactions, if we remember, that is sufficient. And in the case of PET, we have to enrich the oxygen, because in normal cases, the amount of oxygen, in oxygen there are two isotopes. One is oxygen 16 oxygen, and oxygen 18. This oxygen 18 is present in 0.2%. So that has to be enriched and to get it for the PET. But in the case of SPECT, we require to enrich 99 molybdenum, but it is not present in such a low amount. And production of isotope from the reactor is always cheaper. So because of that, what happens is the isotope what we are getting from the SPECT, it is cheaper compared to PET. That I'll come in details also after some time. Yeah. So here mostly used radioisotope is technetium. So you can see from here, if you see from here, all the isotopes what are produced, all mostly are technetium. So technetium is called the workhorse for the nuclear medicine, and it is a workhorse for the SPECT also. And what is the advantage of that is technetium 99. Technetium is a transition element, and in a transition element we can know that technetium is having multiple oxygen state. And because of that, it complexes with all sort of organic molecules. You can see the in number of organic molecules. It combines with organic molecules and it becomes specific to a particular organ. Just to change the organic molecule, it will be specific to a particular organ. That way, we can, if we are having the technetium 99 isotope, only to complex with the various organic molecule, and we can scan the whole body itself, different times and different purpose we can study. So here you can see the production of technetium 99. I saw the only reaction, but that is not the only thing. It has to come from technetium 98, as I saw from here. 1 minute. Yeah. So if you see here, molybdenum 98 N-gamma reaction, it will produce molybdenum 99. And the molybdenum 99, but our requirement is what? Our requirement is technetium 99M. So that has to be produced by the parent-daughter equilibrium. If you see the decay mode, molybdenum 99 decays to technetium 99M, that gives the gamma and comes to 99 technetium. So that gamma energy will be useful for our purpose. It is having a half-life of 6 hours. So for that, what is done is that molybdenum is getting adsorbed in a resin, and that resin is washed with some solution where technetium is forming complex and coming out. So that way, what will happen? This is called generator. So parent is getting trapped into the resin, and the daughter is getting eluted continuously. So this way, this parent-daughter equilibrium works. And these are available commercially also. These are all available commercially because it should be easy to operate. And our DAE1 unit is there, BRIT. So they usually sell those instruments for getting the technetium 99 for clinical applications. So now we have learned now we learned the technique. Sorry, PET and SPECT. Now we have to see PET and SPECT, which is more, which is better. So one thing is very important is resolution in any imaging. So in the case of SPECT imaging and in the case of PET imaging, PET is always having a higher resolution compared to SPECT. The reason is that we are getting the information from the two gamma energies, and the two gamma energies having high intensity 514 keV, 511 keV. In the case of technetium 99, it is having only single gamma, and its energy is 140 keV. And here we are not using any collimation. It is only electronic collimation is there. That is, two gamma energies should fall in the detector within 8 to 12 nanoseconds. But in the case of SPECT, we don't have like that property. It is a single gamma photon. So for that, we have to use some physical collimation. And because of that, we reject huge amount of gamma energies. If we have to say only 1% of the gamma energies, in the case of SPECT, only 0.1%. In the case of PET, only 1% will be useful of the gamma. So you can understand the remaining 99 and 99.9% gamma energies are simply not useful. So because of that, the resolution is better for PET compared to the SPECT. So this is the overall comparison of PET and SPECT. These are very common techniques and usual question that which is better, which is not. So the choice is not very easy. So there are a lot of things are there. First, we already know beta plus emitter. This is beta minus emitter, and it is F18 is the mostly used. It is a technetium 99M is used. Half-life is 1.8 hours, and it is only 6 hours. And these are almost 2 hours. And photon energy is these all these things are 2 gamma photon. These, an accelerator is required for this, but here you require only natural only reactor. And enrichment is required. Here enrichment is required, but accelerator is not required. And 5 to 10 millicurie, here it is 10 to 30 millicurie is required. Dose, because how much the person will get the dose, that is very important criteria. So you can see from here the F18 case, the dose is very high. That is 550 microsievert. In the case of SPECT, it is only 100 microsievert. The reason is that, again, the dose is a function of various things. 1 minute, I'll just write down the equation. So if you see dose, if you see, yeah. So if you see dose is equal to 6C into E. So dose unit is R Roentgen per hour. So it is at 1 feet distance. So here what happens is the amount of energy, what is given, that is amount of activity. So C is the activity in Curie, E is the energy in MeV. So here it is 350 megabecquerel, it is 600 megabecquerel. But even though the amount is more, but the dose is less, because what is happening is the energy, if you see, 140 keV, that is also 1. In the case of 511, 2, that is there. Because of that only, the dose is very high in the case of PET compared to SPECT. That is a difference. And then compared to that, there are other things also there, like the cost. As I told, the cost is let us see PET. So PET cost is quite high compared to SPECT. It is almost 2,000 to 10,000, but in the case of SPECT, it is 750 to 6,000. This cost is at AIIMS Delhi, and the reason is again that use of accelerator and enriched target. So these are the major reason for the use. And if you see, because of that only, worldwide SPECT is more popular. 160 lakh scans are done, but compared to 10 times lower scans are done for the PET. This is the data for 2007. And the PET scanners also costly compared to SPECT scanner, because it is a 360-degree angle you have to put the detector. But in this case, only one detector, it only revolves around the patient. Not revolves, it rotates around the patient. Because of that, because of that, the cost is less. Now we'll come to the next topic, that is cancer treatment. As all of us knows that these 3 modalities of cancer treatment. One is surgery. Then second one is the chemotherapy. Third one is the radiotherapy. So slightly I'll explain how it works, because all the techniques are not part of our today's lecture, and mostly today we're focusing on radiation only. So in the case of surgery, it is simple. First, you should understand whether there is a tumor is there or not, and if it is tumor, which type of tumor, and then we can plan the place we can plan for the surgery, that is the removal of the cancerous cell. So that is done by surgery. In the case of chemotherapy, what is done is that we have to give the patient some type of drugs. So they are mostly some type of alkylating agents are given. So those agents, what it does is that they interact with the DNA molecule, and nucleic acids are there in the DNA molecule. It binds with the two sites, and because of that, what happens is when it goes further for the multiplication, the tumor cells of the cancerous tumor cells, it cannot multiply, and this double helical structure gets broken. So that way this chemotherapy drug works. And the case of third one, that is a radiotherapy, it can work directly by direct impact of the radiation to the double helical structure of the DNA, and it can break the structure of DNA, or it can interact with the water molecules of the body, and then the water molecule can form the free radicals, and then those free radicals can damage the structure of the DNA. This way the structure works. Mostly these two techniques, that is chemotherapy and radiotherapy, concentrates on the killing of the DNA, means the damage of the DNA of the cancerous cells. Now I'll come to the treatment by nuclear medicine. Yeah. So, yes. So it can be two types that treatment. One is there is a curative, or it can be palliative, and it can be some other types also possible. And there is another type is there. There is theranostic. You can see from here, that is therapeutic curative, means it will cure the cancer, means it will kill the cancer cell and it will cure the cancer. So for that, there are various alpha emitters are injected or beta emitters are injected. Various alpha emitters like Bismuth 213, Astatine 21A1, and Yttrium-90s are used. And you can see that alpha energies or beta energies are there, quite high energies are there, half-lives also. So they work like previously how I told, it breaks down the structure of the DNA, and that way it works. And the second type is therapeutic or palliative. Means they will not cure the cancer, but what they do is that they reduces the pain. Because when a person is having a cancer, you have to undergo both the things. You have to undergo the diagnosis also, you have to undergo the therapy also, you have to undergo the pain management also. So here this radium-223 is a alpha emitter that is used for that purpose, or strontium 89 chloride is used for that purpose, samarium-153 is used for, tin-117 is used for the palliative purpose. And there is something called theranostic also. Theranostic is what? Is that if we want to do diagnosis as well as the therapy, so that purpose we can use the same radionuclide. You can tell that why you require this one, because we can use PET or SPECT and we can go for therapy. But the problem is that always we cannot do that, because the function inside the body is dictated by the element what is present. So in the case of PET, we are having F18. But if we want to do surgery, we have to use the iodine-131. So how the glucose will be taken inside the body, how the iodine will be taken inside the body, both are different. Suppose a person has undergone surgery, and there those places where the wounds are getting healed, so body will not understand that is because that place you require a huge amount of energy. So glucose will go that place, and glucose will accumulate. So when we'll get the imaging, we'll unnecessarily think, we'll get misunderstood that particular place maybe has a cancer, but it is not so. But if we do by the same element, that is iodine-131 and iodine-123, the same iodine, same element, then that problem is not there. If gallium, if sorry, not if it is daughter date, then this also daughter date. If it is indium, if it is this and this, both are same. So that way what happens is it has to be same mechanism for the accumulation, and that way will not get misunderstood from the signal of the two different radioisotopes. So that is the theranostic. It is a combination of therapy and diagnostic. Apart from that, not only from the cancer point of view, there are maybe several thyroid disorders also possible. So for that, iodine 131 is used, 30 to 80 millicurie is added. Then even it can be used for that pain management in the case of various knee joints. So there, very small amount of very intense beta emitters, yttrium 90, samarium, all these things can be injected. So what they do is that synovial fluids secretion, it decreases, and because of that, the pain what is there in the knee, so that can be reduced. Apart from that, it can be used for radioimmunotherapy also, radiopeptide therapy also. So all these things can be used, come under the therapy purpose. Okay. Now I'll come to the radiotherapy portion. So already I have told what is radiotherapy and what is nuclear medicine. So radiotherapy means the application of the radioisotopes in a sealed source. So, and in the case of nuclear medicine, it should be a unsealed source. That is the difference. So here radiotherapy can be of two types. One can be external radiotherapy and it can be internal radiotherapy. So external radiotherapy is two types, many types actually. Orthovoltage, teletherapy, IMRT, IGRT, SRT, IORT, brachytherapy, all these things. And those things also, internally is brachytherapy, other things are here. And those things also can be classified further, like SRT is by gamma knife, cyber knife, cyclotron based, these things are there. And there are many other things are there. So there are not much time is available. Only these yellow portions I'll slightly explain in detail. So here I have listed that what are all the modalities of radiotherapy. So you can name those things, and there are small or large differences there, and depending upon the new techniques are discovered, new techniques are named. But the thing is that how the irradiation is done, that if you see, mostly these are X-ray radiations. Mostly these are X-ray radiations. So here all the things, they do the irradiation by the megavoltage X-ray. So as I told previously, the megavoltage X-ray, which is produced by accelerators. And teletherapy is the technique where we use a huge amount of radiation that comes from either can be from the X-ray beam or can be gamma radiation from cobalt-60. And in the case of brachytherapy, there is a special. In the case of brachytherapy, the sources are kept very near to the source, very near to the tumor. Beta particles or gamma radiations are used. So now let us come to the teletherapy. So in the case of teletherapy, so the source can be this high energy X-ray, electron, or cobalt-60. And what is the teletherapy? Teletherapy means it is the source. The teletherapy refers to the radiation given by an external radiation source at a distance from the body. So that is a major difference actually. So other things like how much distance it should be, all these things are there. So this is how the teletherapy instrument looks like. So the thing is the source. That is, source is kept in this place. Here cobalt-60 is the source. The cobalt-60 source is kept here, and the patient will be placed here. So we can see this place. Patient will be placed here. Patient is placed here. And this is the source of cobalt-60. As I told, it should be a sealed source. Is a sealed source is used, so that way it is given. And India is having its own cobalt-60 teletherapy unit that is called Bhavatron. So it is an indigenous source, Bhavatron source. It is produced by cobalt-59 in gamma reaction, and part of the radiation sources are getting imported also to meet the specific activity. Now I'll come to the brachytherapy. So brachytherapy is where the source is placed in the vicinity of the area near the cancerous cell. That means the source will be kept very near to the tumor cell. So it can be used, it can be differentiated again in the various things like duration, how much time, temporary, or it can be permanent. Suppose in the case of prostate cancer, it can be permanent source, permanently source will be placed, or if it is a other type like cervix cancer, it can be temporary. And source position, it either is it interstitial or it is a contact. So like cervix cancer, it can be intercavitary, or it can be intervascular, or if it's surface dose, surface cancer means skin cancer, it can be, then it can be surface itself. And source loading, is it preloading is used or after loading is used. So these are the type of loading, how the sources are added to the body, and the dose rate, whether it is a low dose rate or a middle dose rate or it is a high dose rate material is used. So based upon that, it can be differentiated again. So there are various sources which are used for this purpose. So we can see from the different half-life. So we can understand very easily that if the source is going to be permanent, then it is short half-life should be used. If it is long type of, if it is short duration is required, then so half-life can be very low, and in that case it will not seep into the body. So in this case, it will seep into the body like a prostate cancer. But in this case, a tube or needle or pellets will be used. Only the patient will go to the doctor and will get the dose and come back. So this will be like cervix cancer or breast cancer also. These things are used. So depending on this ocular cancer, it is used Strontium 90. So mostly for cancer related to eye, so that is used. So you can see some of the pictures of persons, how it is getting treated. And what is a very important thing here is, in the case of external beam radiation therapy, the radiation, suppose the tumor is here, radiation is coming from outside. So it will not only kill, not only this person will get radiation, other person also getting radiation. But in the case of brachytherapy, we can see that since the radiation is near to the cancerous tumor, so the dose will be delivered only to the cancerous tumor. So other persons will not get the dose. So that is advantageous, because always you to see the normal cells should get by a very less amount of dose. That is the advantage of the brachytherapy. And brachytherapy sources, if you see, there are wide varieties of brachytherapy sources are there. And one of the thing is the seed. So that seed is like small rice we see in home. So those type of things will be there. So the typical sizes are 0.8 to 4.5 mm capsules are there. So those things are not open. As I told you, it should be sealed source. So the sources are kept here. Then after that, it will be sealed with either with the stainless steel or any aluminum things, aluminum titanium. So they will be sealed, and iodine 125, palladium 103. All these things are used, and these are the typical activity. 4 millicurie activity or 9 millicurie activity, they are used. And these are the how the sources are placed. Suppose a person is having eye cancer, so the sources are kept, surgery is done, and the sources are placed near to the place, and then the person gets the radiation dose continuously. If the person is having surface like skin, then it is surface only the irradiated. That like breast cancer, these are the way the catheters are entered, and then the sources are put through after-loading instrument, and then the catheters are filled with the seed, and then the dose is delivered, and after that the doses, after the seeds are removed immediately. So that way it works. So same way is for the cervix cancer. So no need to put the seed inside, simply use the this type of applicator, and those applicator will be having the huge amount of radiation. The person will be placed there, get the dose, and come back to home without any contamination or any precautions required for the radiation handling. And then it can be used for prostate cancer also. So there, what is done is the small seeds you can see from here, they are permanently kept inside the body. And after, since the half-life is low, so after some time that those things will decay, and only the seeds will be there. They will not create any pollen. So almost 80 to 120 small amount of seeds are placed inside. So there are a lot of advantages of brachytherapy. The advantages is a high dose radiation is derived in the tumor in short time. There is an advantage, and it is a therapeutic ratio is very high. Means the normal cell doesn't get any radiation. But the disadvantage is that it is not that it doesn't require to be put inside the body. It requires to be put inside the body. It is an invasive procedure, and it requires some operation surgery first to insert those radioactive sources inside. That is one disadvantage of that. Then next one is the next very important new topic on this area is stereotactic radiosurgery. So what it does, it is precisely directing the beam of radiation into the particular portion of the radiation. So always we have to try that normal cells should get a less amount of radiation compared to the tumor cells. So in the case of normal teletherapy, what we saw that radiation is coming from outside, all the radiation is going to the surrounding cells also. But that is not suitable for the patient management. And because of that, we have to, this technique is taken birth. So this technique is again classified by gamma knife or Linac based surgery. So what is done is that as the gamma knife technique is there, there is no surgery involved in this place. A gamma knife, because it is a very sharp radiation sources are injected, not injected, it's very radiation, very sharp radiation doses are delivered. So what is done is like a helmet, a setup is made with a small narrow hole are created. So from the outside, radioactive sources are placed so that huge amount of concentrated radiation dose will reach to the particular towards a particular tumor cell, and then that will be that will get the overall dose, and that way the tumor cell will be killed. And since the normal cells will not get radiation, so therapeutic ratio is very high, and mostly this is used for the brain tumors. Yeah. So apart from that, there is another technique is there, that is the Seiwert knife technique. In this thing is that in the case of gamma knife, we use a cobalt 60 source. In the case of Seiwert knife, we use a linear accelerator. So because the problem is that always cobalt 60 source is not available at high energy and high activity. So this Linac is a source of X-ray. It is a linear accelerator. Whenever required, we can switch on the instrument and get the X-ray, and that way it can be done. And here what the advantage is that it is not only for the brain, it can be used for all parts of the body. It can be for all parts of the body, and it can be taken in all directions. So that is another advantage. It can be 3-dimensional angle, and depending upon the application of this, it can be very easy to operate also, because it doesn't require a structure to be inserted, structure to be put on the patient, and that will be cumbersome sometime in the case of gamma knife. But in the case of Seiwert knife, that easiness is there in the case of Seiwert knife. Now the another one comes, and that is a very important one, is the proton therapy. In the case of proton therapy, you can see from here how the gamma and how the proton interacts with the matter. Here you can see, if we have to draw a picture, if we draw a picture of dose versus depth. If you draw the graph, in the case of gamma, it will look like this one. Gamma, it will look like this one. This is gamma. So if we have to draw for the this one, proton is a charged particle. So what happens is the initial level, the radiation dose will be very, very low. So it will be like this. Then suddenly when the energy is very low, then the interaction probability increases. So dose increases, and after that there is a sudden decrease in the dose. So because of that, what happens? This is the base for the proton. And because of that, what happens is that the amount of dose, if you see for the gamma, suppose when it is entered into the body, so the dose is maximum. So you can see here the dose is maximum. 1 minute. You can see here the dose is maximum. So a person, we have to calculate such a way that a person get the tumor should be in this place. But when the tumor is over, then after that also the dose is continuously coming. Suppose a person is having breast cancer, so the dose will not at all stop there. It will go and interact with the normal tissues of the lung, heart, and other organs present at the bottom of that. So because of that, it is not suitable. But in the case of proton therapy, what we can see is that we have to select such a way that maximum amount of dose should be this place. And apart from that, as soon as the tumor is getting irradiated, after that there is no radiation. So because of that, you can see from here, this is the normal X-ray radiation therapy. or gamma radiation therapy, teletherapy. So all these places the radiation goes and the radiation spillover is there, you can see from here. So normal cells are getting their dose, but in the case of proton therapy, that normal cells are not at all getting dose, only at the time of entrance a little amount of that, also little. There is no red portion in this place, but after this there is no radiation. So that is the advantage of the proton therapy. So we are fortunate enough that we are having in India and in Southeast Asia only one place, that is in Chennai. We are having the center, Apollo Hospitals, where we are having the proton therapy. There is a proton cancer center. So that is here they use a cyclotron for generating the proton, because we require a charged particle for that purpose. Then another technique is there, that is a boron neutron capture therapy. We all know that alpha particle is a very massive particle. So if alpha particle is used, like previously we used bismuth 1, 2, 3 for the bismuth 2 and 3 for the treatment of cancer, but that requires injection of the radionuclide inside. So there is another procedure, that is boron neutron capture therapy, BNCT. What is done is that we know there is a very important nuclear reaction, boron 10 neutron capture. So it will produce this reaction, and it by this way our control rods in a nuclear reactor works. So by this reaction, huge amount of there is a huge cross section for this reaction. Boron 10 is an enriched source, and lithium 7 is produced, and alpha is getting emitted. So this alpha will interact with the tumor cell, and it will destroy the tumor cell. That is the way it works. For that, what to do is we have to put boron 10 into the body, and it should localize into the cancerous cell. If you see, this is the suppose normal cell. In this case, there are cancer cells are there, like this green, and boron is given in this pink color things you can see here. These boron compounds are injected into the body, and it gets localized into the tumor cells, and mostly it is used for the brain tumor. And then from outside there will be neutron beam will be given, and that will be irradiating that will interact with the boron compound, and that will give undergo this reaction, and alpha will come out. That alpha will damage the cell, damage the cancer cell. Because of that, we can see all the cancer cells are died. So that way it can work. It can be used for skin cancer or other type of cancer also. But the thing is that there are a lot of challenges in this. First of all, that BNCT is yet to be used in the clinic, because boron compounds should be localized fully. If there is not localized, if it is going to the normal cell, the normal cells will get unnecessarily alpha dose. That is not suitable, and we require a huge amount of accurate and real-time dosimetry data. Those things are not done. Mostly Japanese scientists are doing this work on that, and there are a lot of things can be done on that. Organic chemists are having huge scope in this particular work. Yeah. Now I have almost covered all the techniques what I wanted to talk. Mostly these are the techniques are there. Now very important thing is that what are the absorbed dose, because people will be always asking that how much dose a person will get if you want to undergo that these various radionuclide or various X-ray scanning. So you can see from here these are the red colored things are mostly this imaging technique, diagnostic techniques, and here no radionuclides are injected inside. So all these places the doses are all in the micro gray to milligray range, very low. Whenever we are injecting something, they like PET, SPECT, all these things, the radiation doses, okay, 9 and 10 also quite low. But whenever we are giving this radiation therapy like bismuth 213 and gamma knife or palliative care, you see the dose increase from 7 to 180 gray. So huge amount of doses are injected. But what to do? We have to see that we are killing the cancerous cell by the radiation. So basically it has to be given, but proper care should be taken so that normal cells do not get the dose. If it can be done, it is very good. So that is the thing, always taken care. If you see the conventional radiation therapy, only as I told that always all the normal cells also get the dose. But as I was talking, there is a technique called, there is a previous slide I told, that is intensity modulated radiation therapy is there. So there only this particular place gets the dose, other place doesn't get the dose. That way it works. So same way is the brachytherapy also. Only normal cell get the dose. And there is another one is there is IORT, that is interoperative radiation therapy. There will be a surgery coupled with radiation therapy will be added. Means first, if the organ is inside the body, so then it cannot be given dose from outside because normal cells will be killed. So operate it, then in the open condition itself give the radiation dose. So that way. So this you can see the CyberKnife instrument. That this portion is cut open, and then the person is getting dose. So the normal cells will get very less amount of dose. So this is a combination of surgery and radiation therapy, you can say. Now, very important portion is to come that what is the cost, because all the techniques are very good for listening. But first thing is availability, and then another thing is cost wise. If you see the for X-rays, what everybody has come to know, that a very cheap cost increases, and for the city, this can be done with 1,000 rupees itself. But when it's PET, all the techniques are there, cost is high. Radiation therapy is almost 1 lakh. Gamma knife is 4 to 5 lakhs. CyberKnife also 4 to 5 lakhs. Proton therapy is a very good technique, but because normal cells get very less amount of dose, but the cost you see 25 to 30 lakhs. Now I have completed all the techniques which are there for the cancer therapy and cancer diagnosis. Now I'll come to the thing is the radioisotope production and our work. Now for cancer therapy, for radioisotope production, all we know the equation, that is A is equal to n sigma phi 1 into 1 minus e to the power minus lambda t radiation. So this is the equation by which we can predict that how much amount of activity will be produced, and we can see the graph also, relative activity versus time t half by t radiation by t half. We can see from here that after 4 to 5, this is very important data, up to 5 to 6 half lives, the activity produced gets saturated. Suppose there is a 1 day half-life radioisotope going to produce, no need to irradiate for 100 days. Only 5 to 6 days half-life irradiation is sufficient. So 5 days irradiation is sufficient. So that is the data we can obtain from that. These are data for the reactors, but accelerators also are there for the isotope production. In the reactor, we cannot vary the nuclear energy. In a given reactor, we are having a given energy, but in a accelerator, we are having we can vary the energy, and depending upon the requirement of the isotope, we can vary the energy and can get the desired isotope. That is not possible in the case of reactor. Suppose you want to get 123 and 124 is produced in the irradiation. So what we can do is that we can do the irradiation is a higher energy. So only 123 will be produced, not less amount of 124 will be produced. So these are the advantages we may get. So this is a brief comparison of four type of modes by which we can produce radioisotopes. One is a reactor, second one is accelerator, third one is a generator, and fourth one is a norm. That is a naturally occurring radioactive material. So all we can understand that in the case of reactor, it will be beta minus emitters mostly. Mostly I'm telling, beta plus also produced, but beta plus accelerator will produce mostly beta plus emitter, and generator will produce mostly beta minus emitters, and norm will produce this beta minus or alpha emitters. There are a lot of differences there. One thing is very important thing is that economical point of view. So economic point of view, you can say that reactor is always economical compared to accelerator. Why the thing is that? Because reactor major amount of application is power production, and but accelerator is main purpose is isotope production or research. So this in reactor, the isotopes what will you produce? These are all like byproduct. So always many things are done in reactor compared to a isotope production. So because of that, if you divide the total amount of work, total amount of expenditure for the isotope production, it will be very less. So always the isotope produced from the accelerator, produced from the reactor is always cheaper compared to an accelerator. And with respect to specific activity, we can say that mostly we get with carrier added radioisotope from the reactor, but we can get very high specific activity also and carrier free also from the NP and alpha reaction. But in the case of accelerator, we get mostly very high specific activity radionuclides. Now I'll come to the work that we are doing at IGCAR Kalpakkam. So all of us knows that there are, maybe you will be aware of that. So we are having total three research reactors in our center, 2 research reactors in our center. Yes. So we are having fast breeder test reactor. There is India's only fast reactor. There is a test reactor also, and there is a thermal reactor Kamini, and PFBS. There is a 500 megawatt commercial fast reactor is being produced, it is called made. And there is another thermal power reactor is there. There is a commercial thermal power reactor under NPCIL. There is MAPS. So they are having 220 megawatt power reactors are there. And these are the 3 radioisotopes that we are producing at present. There is strontium 89, P32, and cobalt 60. So first we'll come to the first radioisotopes. First radioisotope, there is strontium 89. As I told, the strontium 89 is used for the metastatic bone cancer. That is for palliative care. It is used to reduction of the pain, and it comes in a therapeutic application. And if you see the cost of the isotopes that is being imported now, is almost 7 to 8 lakhs per dose, and the cost is very high. And in India, we are making it almost within 50 to 60,000 rupees. And in 2022 to 23, it is going to be commercially produced in India and will be supplied to the hospitals. So if you can see, there are various hospitals which import this one. These are mostly imported from the GE Healthcare UK. Now you can see from here that in India, almost how many cancer patients death will be there by 2020? It is almost 8 lakhs. And mostly there are 3 major type of cancers. There is lung cancer, breast cancer, prostate cancer, and all the 3 cancers will develop secondary site is the bone cancer. So this bone pain is huge for all the type of cancer, because all the type of cancer, all the 3 type of cancer is very much common in India. And because of that, we require some type of palliative purpose, because normal palliative purpose thing like normal painkillers are not suitable in the case of 3rd or 4th stages of cancer. So you can see the other alternatives what are present, those are not suitable here. So like morphine, simple drugs, hormone therapy, bisphosphonate, and external beam radiation therapy. Only this bone-seeking radiopharmaceutical only suitable. So there are other alternatives are there, but only if you are approved by US FDA. And apart from that, strontium 89 chloride is very much suitable for this purpose, because as we know that in the period table, that calcium and strontium belongs to a particular group. And this calcium is the major building block of the bone. So because of that, it preferentially concentrates into the bone compared to the other element. Radium also will be good like that way. So, but now we are producing strontium 89. In future, we can produce other things. So in India, there are various ways it can be produced. But we are producing by this route, that is a fast reactor route, yttrium 89 NP reaction in strontium 89 route. So this is the reaction by which it gets produced. So NP reaction, and apart from this reaction, there are other reaction also takes place. And here and those are decaying also by very means. So what happens is yttrium 88 is the major source of radiation. The dose is so high that if we irradiate almost 1 gram of yttrium 89, and after irradiation of yttrium 89, yttrium 88 is produced so high, it is almost a dose is 2 hours per hour. So if you convert that to manual dose, it comes to 20 millisievert. So if we spend only 1 hour in the vicinity of this 1 gram of yttrium, so what did yttrium, that 1 year's dose will be prescribed dose will be matched. So because of that, all the operation has to be done inside the hot cell. So we are doing, and because of that, the workload also increases. So there are various stages of production is there. So first is yttrium pellet preparation, then pellet encapsulation in the irradiation capsule in the helium atmosphere. Then irradiation is done. Then irradiation capsule opening is done after irradiation. Then after that, it is transported to our lab, RCL. Then after that, chemical processing is done, and then very important thing is quantification and quality control is done. After that, it will be given to BRIT, and then from that it will be given to various hospitals in India, and it can be exported to abroad also. So here you can see that these are the pellets of yttria, how it looks, and these are loaded into the SS capsule, and this is the gamma radiography of the irradiation capsule before irradiation. And this is the code. This is the code of APTR, fast beta test reactor, and various places we irradiated the yttria pellets, and depending upon the flux available, we get the various different amount of activity produced. And from this, after dissolution of the irradiated solution, we get a lot of impurities that you can see from here. And if you see in the periodic table, we get various transition elements. We get lanthanides. We get alkali metals. We get alkaline earth metal, and other things also. Here also tin also we get. So from this, our major challenge is to separate the strontium from this, and that has to be qualify the quality control, and then only it will be allowed to supply. So for the separation, we did various separation methods like solvent extraction, extraction chromatography, all these things, and liquid membrane technique also we used for this purpose. And then for crown ether based separation technique we used, it is selective crown ether. So we can see that very quantitatively all strontium along with a very small amount of other impurities are getting extracted to the organic phase. So these are the pictures inside the hot cell. So we can see that how difficult is the operation, because we cannot do anything by hand, only by master slave manipulator things are done. The very important thing is that quality control. That quality control we follow mostly US pharmacopoeia. Not only US pharmacopoeia, we follow European pharmacopoeia, international, all the things, and we take the recommendation from all the techniques. These are the detailed quality control thing. And here I want to tell what are the instruments we used for this purpose. pH meter we used, then gamma spectrometry, liquid scintillation, Cherenkov counting used for the quantification, then ion chromatography used for the radiochemical quality control, then for the radionuclidic purity we use the gamma spectrometry, then for the beta emitter we use the ion chromatography and Cherenkov counting, then we use in beta minus emitter, by there also use the Cherenkov counting. And then we use for quality for other quality control we use ICP OES, and sometimes we use NA also, neutron activity analysis also used. And not only chemical quality control, we have to take care of the biological quality control also, because it has to go inside the body. So for that we do the sterility testing. For that we use the fluid thioglycolate activity test, and we do the pyrogenicity and bacterial endotoxin test. For the gel clot test, while L reagent is used. These are the details of that. I will not go in details of that.
Doctor, I'm very sorry. I just want to kindly interrupt because
yes.
We want to kindly. How much time you think you?
Just another 2-3 minutes I'll take.
Okay, please.
Yes, I'll take another 2-3 minutes.
Yeah, please.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And this is the thing. And then I'll come to the summary that that the flow sheet is standardized and demonstrated. Batch scale process is done. Interlaboratory collaborative comparison was done for the quality control data, and it meets the US, European pharmacopoeia and international pharmacopoeia also. And 6 batches of report is being generated for submission to the RPC BRIT, and pilot plant scale is in progress, and industrial scale is planning stage. So regular production of strontium in APTR will be done by 2020 and 23. Market by that time. So another isotope what is there is also phosphorus 32 used by this technique we produce, and then another one is by cobalt 60 that we produce by nickel 60 NP reaction, and that will be import substitution, and it can be used by brachytherapy as well as teletherapy purpose also. The overall conclusion of my talk, that is various radiation techniques are discussed. So imaging technique, liquid medicine techniques, and radiotherapy techniques. And radiation production in IGCAR is explained, and the field is changing drastically for better and better results. So it is a truly multidisciplinary technique. So everybody can contribute. Nuclear scientists can contribute for finding the better radionuclides. Separation scientists can contribute by finding out better separation methods. Organic chemists can contribute by synthesizing suitable carrier molecule. theoretical scientist can contribute by modeling. Instrumentation engineer can contribute by mode of increasing the efficiency of detection. Various engineers can contribute by process automation and scaling up. And media professionals can give our public awareness, create public awareness, and management professional. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Dr. Debashish Saha, sir. It was
Yes.
a very wonderful, absolutely technical and very exhaustive and quite informative talk. And I'm sure that we are all definitely benefited with your valuable contribution, sir. I think I will request Dr. Arpan Bharadwaj, sir, to kindly unmute your audio, sir. If you can hear me. Dr. Arpan Bharadwaj, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And similarly, I will just request Hakuleshwar Sahu sir, DGM sir. You are already with us, and we are please kindly starting the session just after completing this. So, sir, Dr. Arpan Bharadwaj, sir. I am sure you have seen that entire presentation given by Dr. Debashish Saha, sir. So I will, without taking much of your time, I will request you to kindly, conclude with a vote of thanks for sir, for Honorable Dr. Debashish Saha, sir. Dr. Arpan Bharadwaj, sir, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Not very much, sir. Not very much.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are not completely audible, I think.
Hello.
Hello. Hello. I think some network issue is there.
Okay.
Now it's better.
I don't know some. Okay. Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now it's better. Okay. I think आपका शायद माइक भी अनम्यूट हो गया है सर. प्रोफेसर भारद्वाज सर, आपका माइक भी अनम्यूट हुआ है सर. नो इश्यू सर.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hello.
Now you are audible.
Is it okay, sir? Now.
Yes, sir. Perfectly fine.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
With technology, technology is so intelligent that this knows that now nothing is left to talk. It
Yes.
was mesmerizing. We are all speechless. Speechless simply. I have no words to thank dear Ashish ji to you, no words to thank Dr. Kalpana Singh because she has also taken so many pains for organizing this event. And Debashish sir, you are wonderful. I'm really sorry that we couldn't, because of the time strain, we go in full. But I will request Ashish sir.
Sir.
That we must have some more sessions with Debashish sir and chemistry and what we were able. We were celebrating 150th birth year of Mendeleev.
Yes, sir.
And we just will talk of technetium. We talk that, oh, this is the first synthetic radioactive element. This is the only periodic. This is the only radioactive element which is lying there in the periodic table, and all others here and this and that. What we talk about. But technetium, what should be taught to the students? How to make chemistry easier and comfortable and understandable, and what is the importance of periodic table? Calcium is important. Strontium is important. For strontium, I will say that strontium is a fifth group radical for most of us. That's what we talk about strontium. Or it's a transition element. That is what we talk about. But just not, it's not rather transition element even. So what we talk about elements, what should talk about difference in that. And that difference can be felt if we listen to people like Debashish sir. We know the risk, we know the hardships which these nuclear scientists are facing. They are they keep their life in their hands and they play with the chemicals, they play with the technology. And by saying that, and there is a role of organic chemists, there is a role of media even in synthesizing, in developing these things to make this thing, they can spread information, they can synthesize organic compounds which can become better carrier. It was wonderful. It was wonderful. Devashi sir, we are proud of you. We are proud
Thank
of
you,
you.
sir.
And you are wonderful. So only one thing which we can say, and need not that you have got Ashish of Dev, therefore you are Debashish. So I thank you once again, and thank you all the organizers who have done this job very wonderfully. Great.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sir, yeah. So, thank you once again, Dr. Honorable Dr. Devashi Saha, sir, and
Yes.
Dr. Bharadwaj, sir. I will take another maybe 15-20 minutes or half an hour time. So, we have Honorable Dr. Kuleshwar Sahu, sir, DGM AM from Power Grid Corporation of India Limited from Nagpur. So,
Right.
he is with us. He is very much with us today, and he would like to deliver his knowledge in the field of